Hark how the cries in every street make lanes and alleys ring with goods and ware both fine and rare as market day begins. Come buy my gudgeons fine and new, old clothes to wear, for ceramics. Come taste and try before you buy. Here's dainty pumpkin pears, diddle-diddle-diddle dumplings, oh, and walnuts nice and brown. Let none despise the merry cries of famous London town. Oranges and lemons and Newcastle salmon. Will you buy fine artichokes? Come buy my singing birds. New laid eggs at 10 a groat. Come buy my dainty onion ropes. Here's elder blood to feed your blood and fine salute, both hot and good. Buy my nuts, fine nuts to try, cans a penny to crack and try. Buy my brooms to sweep your rooms, cherries sweet and round and sound. Let none despise the merry cries of famous London town. Buy a rabbit, duck or goose. Come buy a choice fat fowl. Plovers, widgeons or your pigeons. Maids, do you need any coal? Come buy my shrimps to buy. Salads, seals, spats, taste and try. Lights for your cats. But Yorkshire muffins is the cry. Trotters, calves, feet and fine tripes, barrel figs, face at a pound. Let no one despise the cries of London town. Hola, buenas tardes, gracias por venir. Soy Nathaniel Mann y estoy cantando canciones. Bueno, luego os cuento más de qué son estos. Esta primera canción se llama The Cries of Old London. Tienen las letras delante, ¿no? Y de 1750. Y como me caen bien, lo he dejado en 3 versos, pero son 10 o más, creo que son más de 10. Entonces cuenta todas las cosas que venden en el mercado y todos los gritos, los chidos. Entonces llevo rato trabajando con música folclórica y con este proyecto de los cuchillos de carne. Y estoy haciendo algunas canciones que están relacionados con los mercados, porque realmente hay muchísimas canciones que empiezan, estaba en el camino del mercado, que iba en el mercado, que era una parte antiguamente muy importante de la día a día, de la semana, de los meses, de un momento de encuentro cultural y de todo. Y esta es una canción que también que yo creo que cuento un poco sobre eso. Es una canción que existía, básicamente todos los pueblos tendrían su versión. Entonces esta versión se llama The London Carnero, ¿no? The London Ram, pero hay muchísimas versiones de Derby Ram, de Manchester Ram, todo es lo mismo, pero cuenta de un día de mercado. As I went down to London town, was on the market day. So the biggest ram, my boys, that ever was fed on hay. And it's real, my lads, it's true, my boys, never would tell a lie. And if you'd go down the market, you'd have seen him the same as I. Well, the wool on this boy's back, boys, grew up to the sky. The eagles made their nests up there, you could hear the young'uns cry. And it's true, my lads, it's real, my boys, never would tell a lie. If you go down the market, you'd have seen him the same as I. And this ram he had 4 feet, my boys, for who's on which to stand. Every one of those 4 feet would cover an acre of land. And it's real, my lads, it's true, my boys, never would tell a lie. If you'd go down the market, you'd have seen him the same as I. And he rambled, yeah, he rambled, and he rambled, till the butchers cut him down. Well, the years on this old ram, me boys, grew up to the moon. I got climbed up in January, but she didn't come down till June. And it's real, me lads, it's true, me boys, never did tell a lie. And if you'd go down the market, you'd have seen him the same as I. And the horns on this ram's head, my boys, went up to the sun. And they grew so very long. Every time he shook his head, they'd rattle against the sun. And it's real, my boys, it's true, my lads, never was known to lie. But if you'd go down the market, you'd have seen him the same as I. And he rambled, and he rambled, and he rambled, till the butchers cut him down. Well, the butcher that cooked this ram, sir, was up to his neck in blood. And the little boy who held the bowl got carried away in the flood. And the man who fed this ram, sir, must have been very rich. And the man who sings this song must be a lion son of a, yes he is. And he rambled, yes he rambled, yeah he rambled, till the butcher cut him down. So now my song is ended, I've no more to say. Just pay me with a pint of beer and I'll be on my way. And I'll ramble, yes I'll ramble, yes I'll ramble, till the butcher cuts me down.
Gracias, Nathan. No me voy a poner a cantar. Luego seguiremos escuchando a Nathan. Al final, él cerrará este espacio que hemos abierto hoy. Así que luego nos contará más sobre los cuchillos con los que nos ha recibido. Jo soc la Clàudia Delso, de IDRA, del Instituto de Recerca Urbana de Barcelona, y os voy a contar muy brevemente pues, por qué estamos aquí y qué es lo que estamos haciendo, intentando hacer. En IDRA nos interesa mucho pensar las infraestructuras públicas, y estamos en un mercado municipal, en uno de los 40 y pico mercados municipales que tiene Barcelona, y que son pues infraestructuras públicas fundamentales, ¿no? para pensarnos y para entender el sistema alimentario de la ciudad. Y Carolyn, por ejemplo, que la tenemos aquí, ahora la escucharéis, habla en sus libros, ¿no? de cómo el mercado, ¿no? ha sido históricamente el lugar más importante en el espacio público, ¿no? y como un espacio articulador de lo social, y ha tenido históricamente pues una función social fundamental, ¿no? Con David, que también le escucharéis ahora, con David Bravo, ahora conversarán las dos. Hablamos mucho de cómo los mercados municipales también podrían ser espacios culturales, ¿no? ¿Por qué no pensar que el mercado municipal puede pensarse también digamos, a sí mismo, ¿no? y tener agencia y hablar sobre lo que le atraviesa, ¿no? Sobre los sistemas alimentarios y sobre los paisajes que hoy día estamos también bueno, pues construyendo, ¿no? Y entonces esto es lo que estamos intentando hacer desde IDRA, de distintas maneras. Hacemos investigación para la transformación social. Nos interesa mucho entender pues, los sistemas alimentarios y la infraestructura pública y sobre todo cómo la gestión de esa infraestructura también determina, ¿no? pues cómo nos afecta esa infraestructura, ¿no? y entonces pensamos en que es importante reclamar, ¿no? una gobernanza, digamos, pública de las infraestructuras, ¿no? Y también pues, generar unos espacios pues, lo más democráticos posibles. Y en este proyecto que le hemos llamado Fem Comensalitat, lo que estamos tratando es como de volver la mirada a estas infraestructuras, de habitarlas, ¿no? de darles la importancia que verdaderamente tienen, ¿no? Entonces estamos organizando pues, distintas actividades, hemos hecho rutas por distintos mercados municipales, hemos mirado también a otras infraestructuras de la ciudad, como por ejemplo el puerto, ¿no? Que es una gran infraestructura pública también, que también determina el sistema alimentario y que a veces ni nos acordamos de que está ahí, ni tampoco nos preguntamos cómo está siendo gobernado, ¿no? Y lo damos por hecho. Y cómo esa gobernanza pues, también nos explica la ciudad en la que vivimos, ¿no? Y la idea de Fem Comensalitat es una idea muy de acción, muy de accionar, muy de articular un espacio de conversación, pero también del comer, ¿no? Hoy no hay comida, pero estamos en un lugar que articula ese comer, ¿no? Y creemos que pensando en Nathan al principio, cuando habéis entrado, estábamos escuchando sonidos que son sonidos reales de mercados ingleses, ¿no? Entonces queríamos también como recrear un poco, nos hubiese encantado haber podido hacer este acto en el mercado mismo, ¿no? Y ojalá pues, este proyecto pues, durará un tiempo, ¿no? Entonces podamos también hacer alguna actividad cultural, digamos, alguna cosa parecida a esta pues, dentro de esa vida social del mercado, ¿no? Y aprovecho para agradecer a Esther, a la directora del Mercat de Sant Antoni, que estás aquí. Bueno, muchas gracias por la disponibilidad. Este evento lo estamos haciendo también en colaboración con el Instituto Municipal de Mercats. Y bueno, gracias porque ha sido muy fácil también montar todo esto contigo y hace mucho sentido poder estar aquí. También agradecer a la Escuela de Transicions. Este evento también lo estamos haciendo en colaboración y coorganizado con la Escuela de Transicions, que es una escuela de pensamiento ecosocial, utópicamente. Esta es la tercera sesión. Y este evento forma parte de un proyecto más amplio que se llama Museu Habitat y que trata de repensar la institucionalidad museo, partiendo de la base de que el museo, bueno, pues como institucionalidad hija de la modernidad, ¿no? Institución colonial y en profunda crisis de sentido, pues ha de ser repensada, ¿no? en el momento presente. Y en IDRA pues, nos hemos propuesto pensar el museo desde fuera del museo y a través de, digamos, los afectos que atraviesan toda la cuestión pues, alimentaria, ¿no? y toda esta cuestión de infraestructura. Y lo vamos a hacer con un formato de conversación un poco, bueno, orgánico, ¿no? Porque queremos generar como un espacio de comensalitat. Entonces haremos una conversación que guiarán David y Carolyn como si fuese un espacio de sobremesa, ¿no? Que es algo también como muy cultural, ¿no? Nos encantan esos momentos de la comida extendida y del después de comer y esa conversación, bueno, vibrante que ocurre mientras hay comida y vamos a pensar en esa comensalitat también como una sitopia, que es uno de los conceptos también claves de Carolyn. Gracias, Carolyn, gracias, David, y the stage is yours.
Gràcies, Clàudia. Bé, bona tarda a tothom. Moltes gràcies al Museu Habitat, a IDRA, especialment a la Clàudia, per oferir-me la possibilitat d'estar aquí avui i de conversar amb la Carolyn. Ara no vull semblar un pilota, però ho dic sincerament, per mi estic emocionat de fer això. A mi el llibre de la Carolyn, el llibre Hungry Cities, que es podria traduir en català com ciutats famolenques o ciutats que tenen molta gana. M'ha canviat la vida, m'he obsessionat, me l'he llegit com 5 vegades, jo crec que me'l conec millor que ella. I...
Probably.
És un llibre que una de les coses que m'agrada molt d'aquest llibre és que la Carolyn ha sigut pionera a l'hora de barrejar dos mons, com són la ciutat i l'alimentació, el menjar, que a mi m'interessen molt. La ciutat m'interessa com a arquitecte, em dedico a això, i el menjar m'interessa perquè una de les coses que més m'agrada d'aquest món és anar al mercat, cuinar amb amics, amb gent estimada i compartir el menjar. I bé, us el recomano moltíssim. Però una cosa que m'agrada molt també del llibre és que, a part que està molt ben estructurat i que té molt rigor, és que és gairebé se'n va més enllà de l'assaig i entra en la literatura, no? Està ple d'anècdotes viscudes en primera persona i de situacions concretes que fan olor, que tenen gairebé gust, no? I crec que és una manera molt bonica de fer assaig i d'aterrar els conceptes abstractes en situacions concretes. Això és una mica el que intentarem fer ara amb aquesta conversa de sobretaula. És veritat que no acabem de menjar, no crec que ens puguin portar un carajillo, un cigaló. Tampoc hi ha cap cunyat per aquí que ens molesti, o sigui, això ens podem aprofitar. I el que m'agradaria fer és llançar-te com idees atzaroses, concretes de la nostra realitat, perquè tu vagis reaccionant amb elles, no? Primer de tot m'agradaria explicar-te una mica qui som, no? Els catalans. Una definició dels catalans és que som un territori on més de la meitat de la població viu en menys d'un 3% del territori. Estem molt concentrats, tenim uns paisatges molt buits, molt abandonats, però a més hi ha una altra característica que a mi em crida molt l'atenció, que és que som 7 milions de persones, tenim 20 milions de turistes que ens visiten cada any, que en realitat aquesta xifra a mi no m'agrada gaire, en realitat tenim 500.000 de turistes dormint cada nit a Catalunya. Són molts, val? Però a més hi ha una altra dada que no és tan coneguda, que és que tenim 8 milions de porcs. Més porcs que persones.
Yes. Oh, and I have to respond to this. Sorry, I'm busy pouring water. Okay. Well, and it's the same in many parts of the world that there's. Thank you. There's more. We're having a table talk, but we don't have a table. Oh, I need to do this. Right. Okay. Too many. I need 8 arms and 3 brains. Hello, everyone. Very nice to be here with you. And thank you, David, for having this conversation. It's the same in many parts of the world. I mean, we have to understand the story of us on the planet, which is a long story and which I will obviously try to keep very brief because this is not my tendency, but I will try. We used to be hunter-gatherers until very recently, and I mean that in terms of our total history. Being a hunter-gatherer means living directly in, I call it the larder, or basically in the natural world that feeds you, and moving around a territory, following the food. When we started farming, that narrative turned on its head, because instead of following the food, we chose a very, very small number of plants and animals that we were going to call food, and we domesticated them. And domesticating plants and animals is to basically take them out of the wild world and bring them into our house, effectively. I mean, domesticate is in the word. And this very small number of plants and animals really became our companions, in a sense, because by domesticating them, we made them dependent on us. They can't survive without us. And we protect them. It's a kind of exchange. Now, I mean, as I say, it's a very complex story, and there's many elements of it. You happen to mention pigs. By the way, you have incredible ham here, I will say. So it's not totally a kind of crazy story. Meat is a very high-value food. So what we also have to understand about food is that food consists of living things that we kill so we can live. So food is life. And once we had domesticated these animals and plants that were going to keep us alive, we kind of love them. You know, it's really weird. I mean, it's often sort of quite contradictory. I mean, everything, by the way, we say tonight is going to be paradoxical in one way or another, because, you know, to be sitting here talking about life and death and food just is. But, you know, if you think about the condition of a farmer who really cares about his animals or her animals, the farmer may even give those animals a name and love them and care for them and bring in little baby lambs and put them by the fire if they're struggling, and literally nurse them into life so that 2 or 3 years later they can be killed. And many farmers find this difficult, but nevertheless it is the condition that we find ourselves in, having domesticated plants and animals in the first place. So now we come to your pigs in Catalonia. That is the human condition. That is literally how we became urban beings, because you can't have cities without farming. So we went from being hunter-gatherers, as I say, living directly in nature. Am I going at a reasonable speed in the back? She's kind of going a bit slower would be good, I think, yes. This is quite slow for me. But anyway, we went from, and by the way, this is not to say that hunter-gatherers don't have an incredibly powerful, loving relationship with the plants and animals they eat too. This is very interesting. I mean, basically, the Achuar in the Amazon, for example, I was reading about recently, they consider the animals that they kill to be their family, and they ask permission to kill them before they kill them. You know, so this relationship with the plants and animals we eat exists even outside the farming system. We have to make sense of our condition. Once we became thinking beings, once we developed this bit of the brain here, which, by the way, we seem to have stopped using recently, the prefrontal cortex, the human, you know, the modern human bit, the fact that we are at the top of the food chain just became a massive moral issue, a massive question. And I think we struggle with it because, you know, the more you think about it, the more you think, well, you know, who am I to kind of eat anything? I mean, this is, in fact, interestingly, the position of the Jains, you know, Indian sort of religion quite close, similar to Buddhism, who don't believe that humans have any more value, a human life is no more value than any other creature's life. This makes it very difficult to eat. You know, I mean, if you really take this to its bitter conclusion, which sorry, I'm going too fast again. I just realised that she didn't complain, but I know. If you take it to its complete conclusion, the only thing that a very observant Jain can eat is fruit that's already fallen off a tree, that's going to die if you don't eat it, kind of thing. It's going to die anyway inside you. Now, we're at the other opposite end of the scale. You know, we as Western humans give ourselves permission to eat anything. You know, and it says in the Bible, chapter 2, you know, basically, here are the fruits of the world and they're yours to take. Of course, that's before we started farming, and that's a whole other story. So what you point to is a paradox, but it's our condition. And I think our modern dilemma is that we don't really confront this paradox. We're scared of it because what industrialization does partly is to hide the reality of everything we eat. You know, I mean, less so here in Catalonia than in the UK, but, you know, food arrives as if by magic on a carpet, kind of in the middle of the night. You know, I mean, the British mostly eat food that's been cooked in a factory, you know. and it just, you're lying in your pajamas watching Netflix, you know, and 3 a.m, you think, ooh, I quite fancy, sorry, I mean, this is on a sofa, obviously, I quite fancy a Thai curry, boom, boom, boom on the phone, you know, half an hour later, doorbell, guy in a lime green jacket on a bike has your Thai curry for you. This is insanity. This is a very, very weird relationship to have with something that's the most important thing that we do. But because we've evolved a world where the reality of eating is hidden, and because we want it to be hidden because we don't want to have to confront the reality of what it means to be human, or what it means to, you know, have to kill to eat to live, we then find ourselves unable to confront the real paradoxes that we face. And it just puts it in a very morally ambiguous, difficult place that I would argue also makes it therefore difficult to confront all sorts of other major things that we also need to confront. I could go on, but obviously you'll never get to speak again, so that's roughly what I think. Mm.
No, m'has fet gràcia quan parlaves d'aquest amor pels animals, m'has fet recordar un record de quan era petit, tenia uns 6 anys, tenia un amic, el Pol, que de sobte va descobrir que li agradaven moltíssim els animals, no? Adorava els animals, i va decidir que no volia menjar carn. Llavors la seva mare...
I haven't got your translation yet, so I can't understand what you're saying, yeah, sorry.
Oh.
One, thank you. Two.
Is it working now?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
No sé si... Bueno, ho torno a començar. La idea és que m'has fet pensar en un amic de la infància, de quan tenia uns 6 anys, el Pol, que de sobte va descobrir que adorava els animals, estimava molt els animals, no? Com tants altres nens. I va decidir, sense saber el que vol dir vegetarià, va decidir que no volia menjar animals, no volia que es matessin animals perquè ell pogués menjar, no? Llavors la seva mare estava sopant a casa seva, la seva mare li posava un tall de pollastre arrebossat en el plat i el Pol preguntava a la seva mare, això és animal? I deia, no, això és Findus, que és una marca de menjar congelat, no? Però que per mi és una mica un reflex de la distància que hi ha entre la cultura de produir aliments i la cultura de consumir-los en la societat moderna, no? Però bé, també, si em deixes insistir una mica amb els porcs, ja sé que sembla que estigui obsessionat, però una cosa que m'agrada molt del teu llibre és que tractes el menjar més enllà de les necessitats biològiques i purament logístiques de servir les ciutats, que és tot un món molt interessant. També parles del menjar com un tret gairebé identitari, distintiu, no? Que ens relaciona amb la gent que ens envolta, no? Doncs una anècdota que m'ha vingut també al voltant dels porcs és que a la península ibèrica, a Espanya, també a Catalunya, el porc és central a la nostra dieta com a element cultural, no? Com saps, la península va ser ocupada, habitada durant molts anys per musulmans, que no mengen porcs, i per jueus també, estaven tots barrejats, fins que els van expulsar. Jo em sento part dels 3, no especialment de cap d'ells, no? Però a la nostra cultura gastronòmica el porc està molt present. Tu entres en un bar a qualsevol lloc d'Espanya i està ple de xoriços, de pernils penjant, no? Ensenyem, exhibim el porc, que estem dient en realitat som cristians. No ens confongueu amb jueus ni amb musulmans, no? O hi ha la festa de la matança del porc, no? Que és molt important a Catalunya. Convidem a tota la gent del poble perquè vegin que matem porcs i que mengem porcs. No convidem per matar xais, no? És un fet identitari central a la nostra cultura.
Okay. Yes. I see that. What do you want me to say in response to that? I mean, yes, you have a huge amount of pork in your diet. Sorry, and I see that, you know, it's maybe I haven't understood the question you're asking me. I mean, food is always about identity, and it's always about place, and it's always about, you know, how we feel about ourselves in the world. I mean, all those things are absolutely part of it. Are you asking something I'm not understanding?
No.
Okay, you just love talking about pigs. I mean, what can I say more about it? I mean, the pigs are particularly interesting because obviously physiologically they're very close to us. They're brighter than dogs. This is insane. So, and we have, so dogs have cute little eyes, and they've got really good at looking at us like this. So we don't eat them. I mean, really, seriously. The Koreans do eat dogs, although they're getting a bit weird about it because the world's going Western, and because the West doesn't eat dogs, they're getting weird about eating dogs. Pigs are brighter than dogs. Okay, they grow a bit big, so you wouldn't necessarily want to have them as a house pet. But of course, most people did live with pigs. Most people had pigs in their house. Okay, I'm warming to my theme now. You wanted me to talk about pigs. I'm going to talk about pigs. Pigs, they have little, we call them piggy eyes. They have tiny little eyes that don't have that sort of looking mooningly up at you thing. So they don't form a bond with us in the way that dogs do, although you can train a pig to do many of the things that dogs do. So this, again, I come back to my original point, the whole weirdness of domestication and the kind of stories we tell ourselves about who we are and which animals are cute and which animals are to be eaten. Rabbits, by the way, occupy a very weird territory in the UK because many people have rabbits that are pets, but we also eat rabbits. And I mean, again, there's many stories about, Fluffy Bunny. I mean, my mum, this happened to my mother, who actually was Finnish, by the way, and lived through the Second World War as a child. And there was a fluffy bunny, their pet, and there wasn't much food around. And suddenly, one day, her mum served up dinner, and she was about to eat. And then she said, "It's amazing, we've got meat. What is it?" And she said, "Flopsy," or whatever it was called. And of course, my mum couldn't eat the rabbit. So it got wasted. It got killed and wasted. But I mean, as I say, this is why I say it's paradox. It's sort of that our relationship with the animals that we coexist with is just very weird because we don't really confront our true relationship with them. And we decide, okay, are you in or are you out? Am I going to eat you or am I going to kind of buy you Christmas presents? I mean, people have gone nuts with dogs in the UK. I mean, John Lewis, one of our main department stores in London, now has a Father Christmas for dogs. So you can keep, where are we going? But so I just think it's very interesting. But if I come as a visitor to Barcelona, and you tell me that the countryside is full of pigs, this makes complete sense to me. Just like if I went to New Zealand, I know the countryside is full of sheep. That's what they produce, and that's what they eat. And there's way more sheep in New Zealand than there are people. I mean, I remember studying this in geography. There's about 10 times as many sheep in New Zealand as there are people. And of course, globally, we also know that by weight, mammals, so farm animals globally weigh, if we're going to just talk about mass, something like 64% of all the mammalial presence on the earth is farm animals. And then humans are about 30% and about 6% of wild animals. So this is the world we've created. This is the world we're in. And as I say, you hear the statistics and you just go, that can't be possible. But it's what we've created. And I think, something very interesting to investigate. And by the way, I mean, for me, one of the reasons why food is such a sort of powerful and interesting lens through which to see the world, and that's literally what food is to me in work. Obviously, when I'm not working, I love food. But, it's a lens to see the world. So we're not really talking about food predominantly. We're talking about us through the lens of food. We're talking about what is a good life through the lens of food. And it's very important to make that distinction. And when you do that, and then you say, okay, what does it say about us that we eat that species or not that species, or that, we've literally replaced wild animals with domesticated animals that are food? Just can we please ask what we're doing here? What is this? It's just very provocative and interesting and fruitful to stare at, as indeed you want me to do by bringing the pigs back again. Okay.
No, I'm done with pigs.
Okay.
Don't worry. El que volia expressar és aquesta importància que té el menjar per nosaltres des del punt de vista cultural, no? Una mica el que la Clàudia estava dient.
I'm not getting you yet, sorry.
Oh.
So I can't work out how that goes over your ear, so this is my problem. It's counterintuitive. Now it's on, then I have to hear, because every time I put it down, I change the channel by mistake. I think I'm on.
Okay.
Yes.
Molt bé.
Yeah, we're on. Sorry.
Volia recalcar aquesta idea tan present en el teu llibre de fins a quin punt el menjar no és purament biològic, sinó que és cultural, no? Un altre exemple que em ve d'això, que no té res a veure amb els porcs, és un problema que estem vivint aquí a Barcelona. Intento portar-te cap al terreny local, no? Un problema que estem tenint aquí a Barcelona molt greu és la gentrificació dels barris cèntrics i el problema d'accés a l'habitatge, sobretot per la gent jove, no? És un dels problemes més greus que estem patint ara mateix. Però hi ha molta gent per la qual la gentrificació no ha suposat un problema fins que no han vist que una tradició tan nostra com els esmorzars de forquilla estan sent reemplaçats pel brunch, que és l'esmorzar dels expats. Deixa'm que t'expliqui una mica què és l'esmorzar de forquilla. L'esmorzar de forquilla és una cosa que passa al voltant dels mercats, quan hi vas, sobretot hi ha gent gran, esmorzant amb vi o amb cervesa i menjant plats forts, no? És una tradició molt d'aquí, però que ara s'està veient substituïda pel brunch dels expats. Per molta gent això ha sigut com una mena d'ofensa, no? I això ens porta també ja cap al tema cap on et volia portar, que és el gran patrimoni que tenim aquí, que és els mercats municipals, aquests 43 mercats municipals que tenim a Barcelona, no? I n'hi ha alguns que cauen també en aquesta idiosincràsia, en aquesta situació. Per exemple, potser el més famós de tots, el Mercat de la Boqueria, és un mercat que cada vegada més deixa de ser un equipament pels veïns que viuen al voltant i cada cop més s'estenen unes parades que venen sucs de fruita en gots de plàstic d'un sol ús o que venen pernil de jabugo, el que estava celebrant abans, envasat al buit perquè els turistes se'l puguin emportar a l'avió, no? I es va extenent aquesta adulteració del mercat municipal com si fos una metàstasi cada cop més endins de la Rambla i cada cop costa més utilitzar-lo com a veïns, no? Com pot ser que un mercat municipal estigui pervertint així la seva funció, no? És una reflexió que té a veure també amb el menjar i la gentrificació.
Well, of course, it's not only here in Barcelona this is happening. I mean, this is also a global problem. I mean, I first came to Barcelona about 40 years ago, and I remember it before it became this crazy. Well, I mean, you know, I'm going to say one word. I'm going to say the word internet. I think the internet is something that we are really barely beginning to understand how much this has changed our lives. And in fact, we were having the conversation about mass tourism yesterday, you know, in the way, I mean, obviously in England, we saw the kind of the news when people were going around spraying water on tourists on the Ramblas, and I thought, I'm quite glad that wasn't me, because I was only doing that 3 weeks before. But it's completely understandable. So why are there so many tourists in Barcelona, in Venice, in, you know, trying to think, Paris? But, you know, the tiny, beautiful places are completely swamped. It's ridiculous. Part of the reason is that, you know, the internet has commodified travel, you know, and basically people go to places not to be in the place anymore, but to take selfies in front of famous landmarks and all this sort of thing. And, of course, the internet made Airbnb possible, and I know you've banned it recently, which is a really good thing. But, you know, I often use the analogy of a ferry, a car ferry. So if you think about a car ferry, or indeed any kind of ship that's carrying cargo, you have to tie the cargo down, because if the ship hits a wave and all the cargo goes towards one side or the other side, the ship sinks. This is what the internet is doing to society. So basically, let's go to Barcelona. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100 likes, 1,000 likes, 1 million likes. We're all going to Barcelona. Yeah. We all show up in Barcelona. What are we going to do? Oh, you go to the Ramblas. You go to the Ramblas, and you have amazing pig. And then, okay, so suddenly, I mean, I had this experience, by the way, because I have a very good friend who lives in Barcelona, is from Barcelona, and I was telling, in fact, Claudia this earlier today. She took me a few times ago I was here. She said, oh, I must go, there's, because this particular fish is in season, I must go to my favourite fishmonger in the market to get this particular fish. You will love this fish. And we went, and he wasn't there. And she was going, but I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. And then we had the whole conversation. She said it's completely changing. It's stopping being a market. It's starting to be a place where tourists come and eat those funny potatoes on a stick, whatever, which looked quite good, by the way. I was quite impressed with those. But anyway, we're back in the land of paradox again, because what we're dealing with is globalization, which, of course, is not a new phenomenon, but we're talking about a sort of an imbecility, I'm going to have to call it, a sort of stupidity that comes out of seeing somewhere and thinking, I'm going to go and do that so I can say I've done it. Traveling is no longer actually the act of being in a place. It's the act of ticking off a box that impresses your friends to say you've been in a place. Now, you're talking about what markets used to be for locals. And this is the debate I think we need to be having. Okay, so going back to my point about what is a good life, we've been through 2 centuries of thinking that a good life is about using machinery and fossil fuels to live at another level, at another speed. So basically trains and then cars and then flying have allowed us to, by the way, I flew here, so I'm part of the problem. But, it's allowed us to sort of be anywhere like this. Things like food, which used to be the heart of a good life, have basically been a problem to be solved. So, you don't want to have your pig in the back that you fatten up for 11 months of the year and then you kill for Christmas kind of thing, because that's too messy, even though it's incredibly ecologically sound. And indeed, that's why we co-evolved with pigs, because they're omnivores and they can eat the same as we can. Back to the pig thing again. We can't escape them now. It's going to be a piggy evening. But, so we don't want that. We want to solve the problem of food. And how you do that is you create factory farms, so-called, where you pretend the animals don't have feelings even though they do, and you feed them corn that you could be eating yourself, but, there's so much of it you don't know what to do with it anyway. And you don't have to confront the animal as a living being because it comes in dead. Into the city it comes in as a sort of slab of meat. And so you kind of solve the problem. And we bought the idea that solving the problem of eating was a good thing. It was part of this good life over here that's about traveling faster and machinery and 18 channels on the telly. And, this is the good life we've been pursuing since we learned to harness fossil fuels. Now, here's an interesting moment. We're coming out the other side. We're going to have to learn to live without fossil fuels again. What's that going to look like? At the moment, most people are saying, let's live exactly like we have done for the last 100 years, but just have windmills. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. We're not going to be able to do this. This life is coming to an end. What does the new good life look like? I'm not hearing anyone asking this question. This is the question we need to be asking. And the answer is it's local. A good life in the future is going to be local. And by the way, it's also going to involve all the things that we jettisoned over the last 200... I'm going too fast again, aren't I? I'm doing fossil fuel speed speaking now, sorry. But we're going to have to go back and find all the things that we threw out of the plane window, as we were travelling, going on this faster and faster, more and more exciting life, which is time. Just time, sociability, doing this, talking across the table, eating well, savouring things, learning skills that we can use to make things, to mend things, reading, thinking, conversing, so that we can have a rich inner mind, so we can get pleasure just out of looking at a tree or a landscape and thinking about how beautiful the world is. This is where a real good life has always been. We just forgot it, and now we need to get it back. So my answer to you is, we need to kind of come off the addiction, the addiction to the little screen of doom. And by the way, I think it's going to become existential. So I don't think we have to rely only on people suddenly seeing the light and going, oh, life was much better when I just, painted a painting. I mean, I spent my childhood in my bedroom painting and writing poetry. I mean, that's what you did, because there wasn't anything else to do. I did occasionally line up my crayons in order and make little charts to say, but so we amused ourselves. And we went through that thing called boredom and came out the other side and found something the other side that was actually about inner growth. And I don't think, I mean, although it'd be fantastic if everyone just threw their phones away and kind of went back to that, I don't think it's going to happen that way. I think what's going to happen is the crazy sort of final afterburn of the industrial capitalist good life, which we're going through at the moment, is going to become untenable really, really rapidly. And I think our job, the job of people in this room, people who can be bothered to give up a Wednesday night to come and listen to a crazy Englishman singing work songs and then a crazy English woman talking about kind of pigs and dogs, is we're imagining that other good life that we could so easily have if that's what we were trying to do. I know you're in housing, and one of the things that I believe we need to do is we need to give everyone the means to live that low energy good life. This means access to nature, it means access to land, it means a good home and a good job and a supportive community, and obviously a means of eating well at the centre of it. And this is very, very providable, but it's not what we're trying to provide.
Quan parlaves de combustibles...
But hang on. Because if I'm not doing this, then,
yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Okay, sorry.
But everyone else understands, but the one person, he's...
It's you.
See,
Is it working?
you think my ears are the right shape?
I think it's working.
I'll just hold it. Yeah.
I listen, Montse. Ok, quan estaves parlant dels combustibles fòssils i d'aquesta maquinària, d'aquesta tecnificació que ens envolta, m'has fet pensar en una gran qualitat que tenen els nostres mercats municipals, sobretot els que es van fer durant el segle XIX, que són màquines bioclimàtiques, són porxos amb el sostre molt alt perquè l'aire calent puja i així s'allunya la calor del pla dels aliments, i a més són porxos amb ventilació creuada, que això permet també allunyar l'escalfor d'aquest ambient, no? Són cobertes que estan protegint els aliments del sol directe i de la pluja, però són el que avui anomenaríem arquitectura bioclimàtica. Està feta per enginyers, no? Però, en canvi, ara, quan els reformem, està passant una cosa molt curiosa, que és que l'enginyeria dels arquitectes substitueix aquella arquitectura dels enginyers. És a dir, que el que fem bàsicament és afegir vidres, tallar aquesta ventilació creuada i instal·lar-hi unes màquines d'aire condicionat enormes que el que fan és climatitzar un volum d'aire altíssim, no? Un supermercat és un espai arquitectònicament ben pensat perquè té el sostre baix, tècnic, no? I hi ha poc volum d'aire. Però, en canvi, els nostres mercats estan fent aquesta aberració arquitectònica. Què et sembla com a arquitecte?
Yeah. I mean, completely. So the really interesting thing is that, human beings are very, very paradoxical. Sorry to go back to this, but we can be so intelligent and so stupid kind of at the same time. I mean, it's just really weird. And I think it is, this is my handy guide to the brain. Sorry. But I just read this in a book. It's brilliant. This is the reptile brain that we had kind of, 2-3 million years ago. And then this is all the emotional bit that came. So the brain grew from the inside out, as you probably know. So the beginning is your reptile brain. Then all the emotional bit is around here. So this is your amygdala and your hippocampus and all of that. And then the last bit to be produced, which is the lower joint of your middle finger, is your prefrontal cortex, which is the so-called modern human brain. Now, here's the thing. We think we do most of our thinking with that bit, because that's the bit that's very, very good at formulating arguments and, persuading ourselves that we're right about everything and voting for Trump is a good idea. But actually, the bits that we really make decisions with is that bit and those bits. So we think with our reptile brain and our animal brain. So we react to everything that confronts us immediately and instinctively instantly. And then we spend the rest of the time trying to rationalize why we thought the way we already thought, but we're not going to change our minds almost all the time. So this is fascinating when you think about how we behave, why we behave. Now, to go back to your question, you walk around, and again, all the buildings built before we started harnessing fossil fuels are absolute works of genius because they had to be. There wasn't a choice to be stupid. If you didn't get the structure right, it fell down. If you didn't get the climate right, the food went off. So here is another thing I'm going to say, necessity. Necessity is both the mother of intelligence, but it's also the mother of meaning. Because if you work directly with, and it's completely directly connected to what I was saying earlier on about our failure to confront our relationship with food, which comes down to our failure to confront ourselves in the end. As soon as it became possible to ignore climate or structure, so you can just build stupid, I mean, you know, every time I walk up and down the Ramblas, I get really irritated by that horrible building opposite the Boqueria. You know, you see beautiful buildings, and then you see this horrible, weird concrete thing.
The one with the hole.
Yeah, the one with the hole. You don't know what it's doing, but, you know. And you just walk along and you kind of think, what's that about? That's some architect's ego kind of, you know, getting the better. Sorry, I know, we're both architects, you know. I'm recovering, you're still doing it. But anyway, but, you know, it's sort of, because concrete lets you do that, you do it. And this is like our relationship with technology. We've completely got our relationship with technology wrong because basically we've evolved technologies that allow us to do really stupid things. And we've forgotten that technology is there to serve us and that the master of technology is philosophy. There's no point to technology unless you know what you're trying to do with it and why. Otherwise, it's just random power that's very, very likely to be misspent. So your stupid air conditioning example is perfect. Oh, hey, you know, we can do this and we can, you know, I mean, even if they think they're harnessing green energy to do it, green energy is still black energy at the bottom. You still got to build the ruddy windmills, you know, I mean, and electric cars aren't the answer, by the way, I don't, blah, blah. But, you know, technology, the more technology we get, the stupider we get. And, you know, I really genuinely think that you could draw a kind of straight line graph that demonstrates this. And, of course, the phone is the ultimate example of this. The one we just kind of go, it says here that Donald Trump's going to make America great again. You know, the more you just have crazy outcomes in the real world. And, by the way, I think food can be our savior because food is real. And I know they're trying to invent tech food that isn't food. And there's people like Elon Musk get very excited by this. But I mean, actually, real food from an actual field grown by an actual human that you maybe know that comes into a wonderful market like this one, that has a sensible roof, that we take time to buy and to know the grower and to, you know, take home and cook with love and then share with our friends. This is our salvation because food is also a necessity. Necessity is always the mother of, as I say, invention. How do you do it well with the least energy? How do you do it, you know, the most efficiently, but in a good way? Harness the wind, harness the sun, harness natural water flows. And I have to say, I'm so sorry about what went on in Valencia in the last few weeks. And of course, that's a whole other conversation that I'm not qualified to have, other than to say that the signs are there that we need to be really radically and rapidly rethinking. Not only sort of how we solve the various problems of life, that's not the most important question. The most important question is, what kind of life are we trying to serve? What kind of life are we trying to create? What is a good life? So we need the philosophy, and then we harness the technology. And all the really good stuff, the meaning, the pleasure, the deep sense of why bother to be a human in the first place, comes from this. It comes through confronting our problems directly and embracing them and getting pleasure out of solving them well. You know, this is why food is so wonderful. Food is a necessity. If you don't eat, you die. It doesn't get more necessary than that. That's why food is so... Our bodies reward us for eating. This is Epicurus's great insight. Our bodies reward us for doing what is necessary. Same with exercising. Actually, the same with thinking, if you make it a habit. So I think, you know, these stupidities that you talk about, as I say, it's a sickness of too much technology and too little philosophy.
Sí. Does it work? Ok. Ara, si em permets, em posaré encara una mica més polític. A les sobretaules, les converses de sobretaula, molts cops hi ha política pel mig, acaben les famílies mig barallades, però no passa res, és benvinguda la idea. Hi ha una manera molt bonica aquí d'anomenar el mercat municipal, que és que encara el seguim anomenant plaça. Això és una raó gairebé etimològica, no? Molts cops, en els pobles, en els barris, hi havia una plaça a l'aire lliure, sense coberta, on es reunien els venedors dels afores i ho feien tan sovint que al final va tenir sentit cobrir-ho amb aquest sostre, no? I encara que fos un edifici, li seguim anomenant plaça. Però l'important és que políticament això és un espai, és un comú urbà, no? I té una funció social, no? I això és una cosa que de vegades no s'acaba de percebre en els mercats que reformem, no? Et posaré un exemple d'això. Els mercats que tenim, aquests 43 mercats, que és una flota poderosíssima per defensar una manera d'alimentar-nos a granel, sense bosses de plàstic, sense paquets de plàstic o de cartró, amb aliments de temporada, no és el mateix menjar tomàquet i enciam a l'estiu que a l'hivern, com tu bé expliques, de proximitat, amb poca petjada de carboni, és a dir, aliments frescos, de qualitat, que a més haurien de ser assequibles per la població, no caríssims, no? Aquesta és la funció social, fer que la gent pugui arribar en aquests documents i també, per què no, que els petits productors locals tinguin un lloc cèntric on vendre els seus productes, no? Seria aquesta la... Però avui, quan entrem a Barcelona en un dels mercats reformats, una de les primeres coses amb les que topem, no sempre de manera tan evident com el mercat de la Concepció, de vegades estan més amagats, però hi ha un element a dins del mercat que és un autoservei, que tu expliques bé en el teu llibre, un supermercat, no? Una gran superfície que el que fa és tot el contrari, afavorir en lloc dels petits productors locals la gran agroindústria global. En lloc de servir aliments a granel, empaquetar-los amb materials que generen molts residus, no? En lloc de promoure la cultura de menjar de temporada, no, aliments de tot el món durant tot l'any, no? És una mica al contrari. I segurament aquesta presència el que fa és encara complicar, encarir més l'obra de reforma del mercat, exigir que hi hagi, per exemple, un aparcament, que el trobem també a molts mercats, no? Els mercats, en realitat, són equipaments de proximitat en els quals hi anem caminant, amb un carretó, així ens relacionem amb el barri, amb la gent, i si introduïm un cotxe també estem pervertint aquesta idea, no? En el cas del mercat on estem, per exemple, que al seu voltant hi ha una superilla, que és una peatonalització dels carrers que l'envolten, la reforma del mercat va suposar la construcció d'un aparcament de, em sembla que són 500 places subterrànies municipals. Una obra que va costar molts diners, no? I que el que fa no és treure els cotxes, sinó amagar-los, no? Aquestes paradoxes potser les hauríem de repensar una mica, no?
Ow, that hurt when I took it off. It's very interesting because my friend and I, Claire, sitting over there, we were staying very close to here. And this morning we took a walk towards, the Ramblas and then beyond, through an area, I don't know the name of it. But we were fascinated because basically every 50 meters there was a fresh food shop. There was a fruit and vegetables, and the fruit and vegetables looked really good. And we were kind of going, how can there be a fresh fruit and vegetable shop every 50 meters? This is crazy. But we also saw vegetables being delivered by hand on a cart. Literally somebody rolling a trolley along the pavement with beans in it. And I said, this is absolutely amazing. What is wonderful here is that people are basically, and by the way, there were also hairdressers and there were washing machine shops and there were, every chemist, everything you need, enough that you can walk everywhere and you can do everything. And this is local life. I mean, this is the 15-minute city that hasn't gone through the whole process of being a modern city, so it has to be told to be a 15-minute city again. So do you all know about the 15-minute city idea? Yeah. So 15-minute city is a pre-fossil fuel city, basically. And of course, it's what we need to get back to. And it's really interesting. I mean, I find it quite kind of ironic. I mean, when I wrote Hungry City, which I started writing 24 years ago, a really, really long time ago. I'm old. I was so inspired by Barcelona because to me it epitomized everything that I thought a city should be doing to protect its local food traditions. And one of the things I read about, which I found really interesting, was that there was a law that said that you couldn't build a supermarket within a certain distance of a market, because they recognise that a supermarket is literally, it's kryptonite to markets. Now, I'm going to be very by the way, I have to say that everything I'm talking about tonight is paradox, and it's not like, I don't understand why revitalising markets and putting a supermarket in it makes a certain kind of logic, because it's the kind of good life that everybody thinks is a better life, and I'm here to tell you it isn't. There's nothing efficient and there's nothing convenient about supermarkets. What they offer you is this very 20th century idea of choice, but actually what they really do is remove other choices that aren't in the picture, like the choice I quite like, which is to walk 20 meters out of my door and have an amazing selection of fresh vegetables and not have to go 5 floors down in a car in order to go to, blah, blah. So it's just a dilemma because, I do think we're at a tipping point, actually. And I hope personally that people in Barcelona who very, very demonstrably, coming from the UK, if you come to Barcelona, it's very, very clear that people here, you, really care about food and you still understand food in a way that very few people in the UK do. We got rid of our peasant farmers 250 years ago in a thing called the Industrial Revolution, and we've never recovered. And then we had this thing called the special relationship with America after the Second World War, which meant that we didn't have any laws in place whatsoever to prevent supermarket developments, because we didn't think we needed to protect our local markets because we didn't have that many anyway. People had already fallen out of love with this whole food culture. Whereas here, I know for certain, again, my friend who was looking for her fish shop in the Boqueria, last time I saw her, she said, artichokes are in, so I'm going to cook you artichokes. Nobody in the UK knows when artichokes are in. In fact, most of them don't know what an artichoke is. And I'm not even kidding. So are we at a tipping point? Yes, I'm hoping, really, really hoping with which side's my heart? That one. I'm really, really hoping that you here, you Barcelonans, you cling on to your food culture just, like you're dying and it's the last branch that's going to stop you drowning. Because it's so, so important. And everything goes when you lose that. Everything that you care about, your health, your sociability, your sense of space, your kind of public life that is still so vibrant here. I invite all of you to come to the UK and I'll show you how bad it can get. London's all right because it's got this fake, it's like the fake Gothic front of the cathedral. Sorry, I'm just using sort of, you come to London and you think we've got a vibrant food culture. We don't. We've got a vibrant kind of superficial, on the side food culture, but the average British person doesn't cook. And you can't have a food culture without this, and we lost it. We're trying to get it back, but once it's gone, it's really, really difficult to get it back. So sorry, I was going to say, speaking from personal experience, once you you let yourself go a bit, it's really, really difficult to get your fitness back. Anyway, but, so I think it's going to be, I will be watching very closely to see what the inclusion of a supermarket in the middle of a market in Barcelona means. Will Barcelonans cling on, will you in this room cling on to your food culture? Will you fight for it? Will you say, okay, the supermarket's useful for this, this, and this, but I'm not going to let it take away my love of artichokes or my willingness to go and walk another half mile to get the best fish from the best seller because I know where that is? I really hope so, but I think there's a danger here because there is a contradiction. They are different visions of a good life. And one, unfortunately, has all the storytellers on its side because it has all the money behind it. I mean, very influential, very interesting food writer. Am I going too fast again, by the way? It's okay, thank you. In the USA called Marion Nestle. She wrote a book about, again, 24 years ago, called Food Politics. And in that book, she detailed how much money was spent flogging people crisps or hamburgers and how much was spent flogging them fresh lettuce. Guess what? It's about 1,000 to 1. You know, there were literally hundreds of millions being spent saying, eat, you know, King, whatever they're called, Burger King. And almost nothing was being spent saying, have a carrot. Because there's no money in carrots, you know. So it's not about health. So the forces of, I don't want to go as far as to say forces of evil, but I will say the forces of globalization, ill health, destruction of food culture are within the model that the supermarket belongs to. And the narrative is very much, this is a better life. And this is why I keep going on about, we need a better narrative about what a good life is, that is about preserving these traditions and caring about them and taking time for them. We need to take time back. You know, we need a sort of a way of thinking about how we're going to lead our lives. And by the way, AI is coming. So that's potentially half the jobs in this room gone. You know, what are we all going to do all day? You know, if we retain our value in food and in the UK put all our, you know, really revalue food, and rethink our lives around it. This, for me, as I say, is the best bulwark, sorry, weird word, bulwark, barrier, bastion, defense we have against everything just going digital and up in smoke, and us just, we're designing ourselves out of an existence at the moment. You know, this is the technology thing again. Food is our savior because it's the one thing that actually nobody really has worked out how to replace yet. And that brings us together, that reminds us how we evolved as humans, which is sitting around a fire, sharing food.
Sí. Precisament, m'estaves fent pensar que una de les coses més màgiques de la cuina catalana i de la cuina mediterrània és que és un coneixement que durant moltes generacions ha ajudat a la gent a afrontar èpoques d'austeritat i d'escassedat, no? El que a Itàlia es coneix com la cucina povera, no? Hi ha un exemple molt bonic d'això a la nostra cuina, que és l'arròs negre. L'arròs negre el que fa és entendre que tenim una sípia que hem pescat, però som 6 o 7 per menjar-nos-la, és molt poc. Llavors el que fem és entendre que l'arròs pot ser com el Robin Hood, que li roba el sabor a la sípia i és capaç de repartir-la en les panxes de les 7 persones que el volen menjar, fins al punt que és més bo l'arròs negre que la sípia a la planxa que ens podríem menjar si fossin rics, no? Aquest tipus de lliçons estan molt presents en aquesta cuina i fan que defensar-lo no sigui una opció nostàlgica, sinó que sigui una lliçó molt útil per temps que poden venir de forma bastant plausible, d'escassedat energètica, no? Més enllà de l'escalfament global, etc. Però, mentrestant, el que estem veient és que la batalla cultural que hauríem d'estar lliurant perquè aquest coneixement estés el més distribuït possible, no només entre la gent gran, sinó també cap als joves, cap a les noves generacions, el que estem veient, almenys jo, m'obsessiona bastant, és, per exemple, anuncis de McDonald's a les parades de metro. No es pot anunciar a Marlboro, però es pot anunciar a McDonald's. També Volkswagen, però aquest seria un altre tema. Què veiem més? Veiem com es defensa des de la televisió pública i la ràdio pública un star system de chefs com Ferran Adrià, no? Que el que fan és privatitzar o elititzar aquest coneixement popular, fer-lo molt complex. Et calen 10 cuiners per cada persona que està menjant en el seu restaurant, gastant molta energia, molts recursos, no? És tot el contrari, no? I estem celebrant les estrelles Michelin i des d'altaveus públics, no? I llavors això crec que és poc útil per les noves generacions que veuen plats cuinats a través d'Instagram així molt ràpid, sense ser conscients del temps que cal prendre. Llavors, fins a quin punt hauríem de donar un cop de puny a la taula i començar a utilitzar com a mínim els canals públics per defensar aquestes maneres de fer que ens calen pel futur immediat, no?
Well, I mean, in the UK, nobody cooks, but everybody watches cooking programs. We call it food porn. So you order your ready meal, there you are in your kind of shell suit, and you're kind of eating whatever it is you ordered, and you're watching all this complicated stuff that you have no intention of ever even trying to do. So it's completely ridiculous. And when you were talking, there's two things I want to say, actually, and I'm very bad at remembering what I want to say because I just get carried away. But I want to come back to your point about the square, so remind me if I don't. But the other thing I was thinking while you were talking, and I really think this is critical, is that the average level of skill in any society is a really, really good measure of how good that society is. Now, in traditional societies, everybody was really, really good at something because they had to be. Lots of women were really, really, really good at cooking. In England, you have to go back quite a long way. But, here it was still the case a generation ago. I mean, I just asked you when we were coming in, a young kid's learning how to cook, and you were kind of going, it's starting to go. But, very, very much what you're talking about, cucina povera, literally the people who lived with the pigs, loved the pigs, killed the pigs, also knew what to do with the pigs. Surprise, surprise. And one pig would last you a whole year. And you prized, you knew exactly which bit needed this kind of cooking, how to preserve it, which is why you have the wonderful hams, the bacons, etc. It's all part of a piece. This is genuine intelligence, genuine skill, genuine, this is what this bit was really for, this bit of our brain. When you just kind of dull the stuff up on the internet while you're watching, Batman, you're not really allowing yourself, I mean, sorry to say this, but, the Greeks come up a lot when I'm talking. So Aristotle, I think very interestingly said, what is it, what does it mean to be a good human? And he said, because he was very interested in the perfection of things, and he said, what humans have that no other animal has is the capacity to think. So to become fully human, we need to really develop our capacity to think. And I think he was right up to a point, but we also think with our hands. That's how we became really intelligent, is by doing stuff with our hands. So don't forget, thinking can also be manual. The kind of, you go, we all have this experience. You go to somebody's, house, and their grandmother, particularly in this part of the world, is making pasta, like she's made pasta for 100 years, and you watch in just sheer admiration and joy. And they're so good at doing this cooking that they're not even having to think about it. The hands are just automatically making these wondrous bundles of joy, and they can talk and they can chat and they can reminisce. And, to me, there's so much here about a good life. When we create a society when nobody can do anything, seriously, I play a game with myself, actually. Imagine you're shipwrecked on a desert island and you can choose one human being to be shipwrecked with. Who would you choose? Would you choose someone who knows which pop star, did the latest video on Netflix, or would you choose someone who can make a fire? I'm going for the person who makes the fire. And I really think, again, this is something that we've completely lost sight of. So to me, one of the things that we need to be doing is we need to be reacquiring skill. Of course, it goes back to the technology conversation again. Okay, square is the other thing that I made you tell me that I now therefore remembered. One of the other incredibly important things about a good life, thriving as humans, is other people. And you said it when we were just in the market earlier. We are natural collaborators. That's how we became more than the sum of our parts. And we evolved living in small groups. And they were small problem-solving groups. The main question that presented itself every day, of course, was how do we eat? That was the big one. And we became human in co-solving that problem. Now, I think we need this back in our lives again. We need to realize that, there is no good life without other people. And food is the thing that brought us together in the first place. And going back to your square, of course, in the pre-industrial city, when it was impossible to preserve food, everyone went to the market every day. So that was where you went to meet people. It was the space of every man, every woman, every child. It was where you went for the gossip, the news, the banter. Oh, fantastic, you've bought a pie, I've got a fish, let's go and find somewhere, cook the fish, have a chat, talk till midnight. This is the essence of a good life. And food is still there. We still need to eat, luckily. They haven't AI'd our stomachs yet. Well, there's Ozempic, of course, but, have you heard of Ozempic? Yeah. Completely mad. I've been on it by mistake, by the way. This is a long story that we probably don't have time for, but it's insanity. So Ozempic, do you know what it is? It's this kind of it's this drug that you inject yourself with, and it takes your appetite away. And it's being touted as the answer to obesity. But this is your air conditioning units in the badly designed building. So eat ultra-processed food, get really sick and really fat, inject yourself so you don't have appetite and go on drugs. This is complete insanity. So we need to sort of get back to the core of what makes us flourish as humans, as I say. And food is at the heart of both of them because it's at the heart of us needing to be healthy and our relationship with nature needing to be balanced. But it's also at the heart of what we share with other people, commonality, heterogeneity, and public life. I mean, literally what you have in spades in Barcelona with these amazing markets, that I agree. I mean, it's fantastic to be sitting here in a market doing a public event. I mean, this is what markets are for. That's why they're strategically placed where it's easiest for everyone to get to. And it's incredible. There are more than 40 in Barcelona. But it needs this life in it as well. It was never just about food. Food was the driving force, but it was never just about food. It was about life.
Absolutely. McGuffin. Em sembla que ens estem quedant sense temps, però ens agradaria també saber si teniu alguna cosa a dir, alguna pregunta o alguna discrepància també, podria ser. Això és un debat obert. No sé si algú vol fer afegir alguna cosa. Sí, endavant.
Do you have another literary book or project for the future?
Thank you very much for asking that question. By the way, I realise I haven't explained what Sitopia is, and that's actually the name of this, so I should probably explain. Sitopia is a word I invented about probably, 15, 20 years ago now, and everything's a long time ago now. You know that thing when you kind of get on a plane and it says, when you're born and you have to scroll and scroll and scroll before your day. Well, you won't know that, but when you're my age, you just scroll and scroll and scroll until you get to the historic bits, and then you go, oh yeah, that's when I was born. Anyway, but Sitopia is a word I invented. It just means food place. It's from the Greek sitos for food and topos, which means place. The reason I invented this word is I was researching my first book, Hungry City, and I'd follow the journey of food through the city. That's the structure of the book, and thank you for saying it's well structured. So the structure came within a week of having the idea for the book, and it was from a drawing, of course, because I'm an architect, so we architects can't understand anything unless they can see it. We're very visual, so I had to draw. I drew a pig, actually. You won't believe this, but I drew a pig. No, I absolutely do, and I'll send you the drawing to prove it. I drew a pig and its journey through the city, and one of my original titles for the book was going to be Pig City, weirdly. Anyway, there you go. So pigs are I just told you the whole evening is going to be about pigs. But so I was, and at the end of that book, so I'd followed food's journey through the city in 6 stages, from the land to the road to the market to the kitchen to the table to the waste dump. That's the structure of the book. And then the final chapter, I thought, I just need to kind of wrap all this up. And I thought I'd always started with a historical example. So I began with with a contemporary example. So, for example, the first chapter began with turkeys because it was Christmas. And I said, there's 2 TV programs on the TV, going back to your TV thing, simultaneously about Christmas dinner. And one is about happy turkeys running around in the woods, and Bach is playing in the background. And, there's a chef who sort of plays them, music while he very gently slits their throats. But it's all very beautiful. And that's the worst bit of the film, as it were, if you're squeamish. And then on the other channel, there was a horrific, expose documentary of the turkey sheds, where all the turkeys, don't have space to walk. And it was just horrific. And I said, how, as a sort of average British consumer, are you meant to make sense of any of this? You just want Christmas dinner, and you depending on which channel. Sorry, am I going too fast again? That was all. No, fine. Depending on which channel you happen to watch, you're either going to think, oh, turkey, it's lovely, it's had a happy life, or, oh no, I'm an evil person to even think of eating a turkey. And then I did some maths, and I worked out that if everyone had happy turkeys in the UK, there would be no land left for anything else, literally. So that's your answer to that. Anyway, sorry. But I started with, if you like, a contemporary example like that, and then I did a big historical loop, and then came back and said, how did we get here, basically? So for the last chapter, I thought, what am I going to study that sort of, in a way, sums up this whole journey I've identified, the journey of food through the city? And I thought, I'll research utopia, because utopia is our great tradition of thinking in a multidisciplinary way about how we should live. So I started reading about utopia. And what was really interesting is that I discovered one thing: utopians talk endlessly about food, but without realizing it in a way. But they talk about farming, they talk about the relationship between the city and the countryside, they talk about everyone having communal meals. Food is everywhere. But the second thing I learned is that the U in utopia is a joke, because it can either come from the Greek word that means good, which is spelled EU, or the Greek word meaning no, which is OU. So you take the U and add it to topia, which means topos, which is place. So it's either a good place or no place. And I thought, this is really terrible. This is really depressing, because our greatest tradition of thinking in a multidisciplinary way about how we should live can't exist by design. And it was then that I had the idea of inventing an alternative through food, because by then I'd discovered how powerfully food shapes our lives: mind, body, politics, city, country, climate, etc. And this is why I invented the word Sitopia. So it just means food place, and it's a food, we live in a Sitopia. We live in a world shaped by food, but we don't live in a very good Sitopia because we don't value food. You live in a much better Sitopia here than we do in the UK. So Barcelona is in my book, a good Sitopia, could be better. The UK is a disastrous utopia, needs to be much better. But if we don't value food, we go that way. If we do value it, the more you value food, the more you shape the world through your valuing of food, the closer Sitopia gets to utopia. So I just thought I'd better explain that. Now to your question, I've already written another book by mistake, but it only exists in Dutch. And how this happened was, I was writing an essay for a Dutch university, and basically, literally, as soon as I started writing it, COVID happened. So my 5,000-word essay became a 10,000, 20, 30. When it got to 35, they said, that's a book. We're going to publish it as a book. And it's absolutely fascinating writing what you think is an essay that no one's going to read, and then someone decides to publish it as a book. It's kind of really, and in Dutch, so you can't even read it anyway. Also, I didn't write it in Dutch. But what that book is a lot of what I've been talking about with David tonight. So the book is really saying, and COVID was very much the context in which I wrote it, that all the things that we need in order to flourish as humans are primal. You know, we don't need anything to flourish that hunter-gatherers didn't have 30,000 years ago. And I really believe this. So what technology has given us is comfort, speed, ease, but it hasn't replaced any of the things we really need, which is good health, sociability, high levels of individual skill. I've said it all already tonight, you know, a sense of agency, a sense of meaning, closeness to nature, collaborative units. It's all there. So we just need to realize that we've jettisoned all of these things on our way to this crazy other fossil fueled good life over here, that when you get there, you just end up, you've got 800 Louis Vuitton handbags and you're miserable and lonely and fat. You know, I mean, it's just not a good life. And it's only for a tiny proportion of people anyway. So that's the principle of it. And the interesting thing about writing it during COVID was that COVID really showed us what we need to thrive, either by giving it to us by mistake. So time was the classic thing that many people like me, I mean, I'm a writer, so basically, well, I am now. I used to be an architect. I'm a recovering architect, as I said earlier, but now being stuck at home with no emails coming in is my idea of heaven. So I had I had to pretend I hated lockdown, but I didn't. I absolutely loved it. And I just wrote and read, and it was fantastic. But I realised that that's a strange lens through which to be asking the question of what is a good life. But I do think we all need time. You know, I mean, time is the big thing that capitalism robs us of because of this evil thing that Benjamin Franklin said, that time is money, which is insanity. Time is life, it's not money. Good health, obviously, COVID really highlighted that. I mean, it's very interesting that a lot of the deaths due to COVID were because people had diet-related disease, so they were already too fat. They were already, you know, on the edge, and then COVID finished them off. Closeness. I mean, how many of us didn't sort of, you know, sorry, I was about to hug David then by mistake, but, you know, how many of us didn't sort of sit in our rooms thinking, I need to hug someone. I just, you know, we need this physical closeness. This is real. And collaborative societies. I mean, under COVID, so many people rediscovered neighborhood, again, out of necessity. And closeness to nature is the other one, of course. And, you know, I remember, you know, being allowed out an hour a day to go to the park. I actually went to the park for an hour a day, and I promise you I don't do that normally. You know, I mean, it's weird. It really, so many people said, I've seen the cherry tree in my local park blossom for the first time in my life, because normally I'm rushing to the station, I'm on my phone, I'm drinking coffee, you know, the tree's over there, I don't see it. So I just think all the elements of the life that we need, they're present in our lives, but we're not trying to provide them for everyone, and we really, really could be doing that. It's a completely alternative idea of what a good life looks like. So I want to write that. I want to do an English version of that essay, and I want it to be small, because all my books end up really fat, like me. So maybe it's not non-coincidental, but I mean, I really want it to be the kind of thing you can stick in your pocket and read on a train. So that's the plan, but thank you for asking. Sorry, I've got...